Welcome back, everyone, to Box Podcast, and this is officially our end of season review. That is right, the 2025 season concluded last week, and now it's time we look back at all the highs and lows and give our thoughts this season, and I guess also look back at some of our horrendous but also spectacular predictions. So if you're new here, do make sure you click subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening to us, because it does make a big difference, and comment where you can, because we love it when you get involved. If you do want to follow us on social media, then just search BoxBox Podcast in Instagram and BoxBox Clips on TikTok, and that is where you will find all the exclusive BoxBox updates. We are obviously BoxBox Podcast, powered by BoxBox Club, so shout out to them. Check out more in the description down below. Anyway, not going to bore you any further. Let's dive right into this.
All right, guys, welcome along. As Luke said, it is the end of season review, basically. So we're going to go through each team, give our views on the season, talk about what our favourite moments of the season were. I think for Luke and I, it's probably when the season ended. But anyway, we'll move forward for that. I just want to say a massive shout out, because we had a really nice comment this week, and Luke, I sent this to you, but I'm not sure you read it, but I'm going to read it out to you. This is from Tori. She commented on Spotify, and she said, "This year is the first season I've truly gotten into F1. And I've got to say, there's absolutely no way I would have understood half of the F1 world without listening to this podcast. Especially since I joined about a third into the season. This has by far become my favourite podcast. I love that you share your opinions with facts to back them up and stick by your words until proven otherwise." You're aiming that at me, I know. Okay. Looking forward to
She's
starting
got to be
next
one
year.
in a million.
Looking forward to starting next year with you guys from the start. So, Tori, thank you very much. That is very nice. And, really nice comments. So thank you very much.
I mean, it's clear who she was talking about. And, I appreciate it, Tori. It's good to have you along for the ride. And, we'll try and get Matt up to scratch for next season. I'll work on that over the winter break.
Okay. All right. Let's just end this, okay? Let's just end this now.
Yeah.
Let's just say, for a good chunk of the season, my prediction was on course to be right. I stated at the beginning of this season, Oscar Piastri would win a world championship before Lando Norris. Even you got on the hype train, along with everyone else. It didn't end like that, but people did change their opinions. So my opinion wasn't completely off, was it? Let's be real.
What was that thing Max Verstappen said? Was it, if my mum had balls, she'd be my dad? Because I think it's about as relevant as that, right? It doesn't matter. Oscar Piastri did not win the world championship, and Lando Norris did. So your prediction, which you said, with a lot of belief behind it, was incorrect.
Yep.
And that's fine. But this is actually perfect, because I want to start the season review on McLaren. It's only right. Okay. They won the Constructors' Championship. They won the World Drivers' Championship. And when this clip goes up on socials, I just want to state that on this day, right, it's Sunday the 14th of December, this exact day last year, a clip went out on TikTok of me saying that McLaren are best placed to win the championship next year, both the Constructors and the World Drivers' Championship. So that is 10 points to Martin, and I will be taking that to the grave with me. But I've been thinking of contentious debates that I could pull up throughout this episode, right? Which are not my views. These are things that I seen floating around and what people have said, and I want to bring them up, and this is perfect for McLaren, because my first one is Oscar Piastri bottled the championship. Discuss.
It's hard to say he didn't, because he had quite a comfortable lead. He looked good for a big chunk of the season. And then to lose that and actually finish third in the Constructors. Look, this is Oscar Piastri's third season in F1. He's grown every year. He's got better and better. So for him, actually, there's a lot of positives to take heading into next year. He's only going to get better and better. He's still young. But I think it's hard to say you haven't bottled something when you were in control of the championship for a good chunk of the season.
Look, so my opinion is I agree with you. I kind of really hate the narrative of someone bottling the championship when there was still a fair amount of time to go. Oscar had a dip in performance. That is undoubtable, right? But I stand by this. That I really don't like this narrative that people build around people of like, oh, you bottled it. Where look, if he got to the last race of the season, right, and he was 24 points clear, and he crashed out in turn 1 or whatever, and then lost the championship, that would be bottling the championship. But we know how long the season is, right? And yeah, he had one hand on the trophy at one point. He did, and he did let that slip. But the reason I think we kind of have to say, well, he did a little bit, is because if it was Lando Norris in Oscar Piastri's position earlier in the season, my God, people would be gunning for him. And everyone would be all over him saying, you bottled the championship. So I think it's only fair in an equal society that we apply the same principles to Oscar Piastri. That would be my take on the situation.
I also think it's very important to remember that the seasons have got longer. Okay, so for drivers who, when there was 15 races, 18 races, 20 races or whatever, it was much easier for drivers to keep hold of that momentum, if that makes sense. But this is a long season. It's now 24 races a year. And that's what we're seeing. It's very hard for drivers to keep that momentum. Yes, okay, Max Verstappen's done it and that. But for some drivers, it's hard to keep that momentum for that amount of races, if that makes sense.
Yeah, look, the seasons are incredibly long. They're incredibly relentless. You have to put so much into it. And to win a world championship, you have to be putting in 100%, pretty much 100% of the time. And it was unfortunate for Oscar. Like I say, I just want to stress, I hate the idea of, Oscar Piastri is in his 3rd season in F1. To say he bottled it, I think, is a harsh take on it. But I do believe that if Lando Norris was in that situation, people would be calling him a bottle job. That's why I just think in terms of equality, here at Box, we don't discriminate. Therefore, Oscar Piastri will be labelled a bottle job by some, but do I believe he bottled it? Absolutely not.
No, I ultimately think it's also worse that he finished 3rd. Do you know what I mean? For a big chunk of the season, he was leading that championship to then... I mean, what was it? From Japan to... Where was it where he lost the lead to Lando? I can't remember where it was, but he held that lead in the championship for such a long period of time. And then to finish the season 3rd is a tough take for him. But like I said at the beginning of this, he has got a lot of positives to take. He's grown more and more. He's got some great wins this year. He's shown what he has. I just hope he's not one of those drivers that actually some tracks suit him, and then when he gets to others, that's where he completely comes undone. But no, I think
Well,
Oscar
hang on.
Piastri...
A couple of weeks ago, you thought McLaren was sabotaging him.
No. I asked a question whether he was being sabotaged. I didn't think they were sabotaging. I think there's a lot of people who are speculating that he's been sabotaged. And Luke, look, you may sit there and go, oh, look at me.
Look what's on my head.
Oh, look. God,
yeah, I'm a McLaren fan.
Yeah. Where have you been all season, eh? But anyway, Oscar Piastri, do let us know what your thoughts are on Oscar Piastri. Sorry.
No, are you sticking on McLaren here? Because I do want to kind of dive into their season a little bit.
Yeah. Can I just say something about Lando Norris? Lando Norris, I've been very vocal this year that I did not think that you were world championship material. And look, I said last week, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. You proved me wrong, and congratulations to you. I genuinely mean that. But I just want to break down some stats about Lando Norris. And I have to say, when I read this, fair play to you, because he becomes the 35th F1 world champion. He's 11th British world champion. He's the first McLaren champion since 2008. It's his 7th season in F1. He is the 7th youngest driver in history to win a title. He's had 7 wins this season, including Monaco and Silverstone, 7 pole positions, 18 podiums, which is pretty mental. 18 podiums out of 24, most on the grid, and a new McLaren season record previously held by, Luke, do you know who?
Sir Lewis Hamilton, no doubt.
No, it was held by himself. He overcame a 34-point deficit in 5 races. He was undefeated in qualifying versus his teammate for 7 years in a row. This year was 13-11. He's a driver with the most starts in McLaren history and the first driver ever to reach 150 races with his debut team. And he's the first driver in F1 history to win his first 11 races at 11 different circuits. And finally, one of only 2 drivers to make Q3 at every race in 2025. Lando Norris, look, I'm going to apologise. I got it wrong. Reading that there is very impressive. So well done to you, a worthy world champion. And yeah, I got it completely wrong.
Well, look, it's a team sport, right? Both Lando and Oscar had a fantastic season. Unbelievable. 423 points for Lando, 410 points for Oscar. You know, this had been a long time coming for McLaren to see them really back on the top step. I know they won the Constructors last year, but to see them win a world championship, it has been far too long. And they've had some rough periods through, as we moved into the turbo hybrid era. But I want to talk about the team's turnaround, okay? Because this is one thing that absolutely amazed me. In 2022, do you know what McLaren finished the season on, points-wise?
Wasn't it like 140 something?
159.
Yeah.
This season, they finished on 833 points. That's an increase of 674 points. Now, that is an incredible turnaround, and we've spoken highly about the team, less about team radio, but the team have done a very good job, and regardless of your personal opinions of Zach Brown or whatever, how that team operates, you cannot deny that they have done an unbelievable job. And look, it takes fast drivers to drive a fast car and to go on and win a championship, and they've got that. The team from end to end has been flawless, and we've got to give them the credit. Even from last year, it's a gain of 167 points, so it's very impressive. And I think McLaren, obviously, this season's sort of winners, and they will be walking away with their heads held high.
No, and I think, do you remember that first race, wasn't it, in Bahrain, when did they have a double DNF or something? Or they had, how many times did McLaren pit in that first?
Yeah, was it Lando who had the hydraulic failure or issue?
Yeah.
Where they had to keep refilling it with I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but he had to pit pretty much every 8 laps or something ridiculous. And obviously they kept him out purely just to gather data, because they were probably thinking holy shit, we're in the shit here. We need to try and understand what is going on. And fair play, they understood.
And I think the only thing I hope for next season is they get rid of this papaya rules, because Oscar Piastri, and I don't know if you've seen, he's come out and he's spoken about next year, and he's basically said, we've had a great season. Lando's had a great season and a deserving champion, but he's still Lando Norris. It's not like he's become Superman. I'm expecting full fairness and equality going forward. And I want to ask you, Luke, when I read this, Lando Norris is a world champion. Obviously, he doesn't expect them to be, treating anyone with a first driver or whatever. We felt this year that potentially they do favour Lando a bit more than Oscar Piastri. I don't necessarily see that changing in 2026. I don't know what you think.
I think the World Championship has likely just increased the chances of them favouring Lando. I think there's a lot of nuances to this Lando favoritism, because I think a big part of it will be down to his marketability. Lando
Yeah.
is way more marketable than Oscar because his personality, and it's a money sport. What isn't? So I think that is also where the favoritism comes in. I think you have to look at the 7-year relationship in F1 that they've got with Lando. That extends beyond that. There was a lot of nurturing that went into it. Oscar wasn't even part of McLaren's driver program, yet they poached him from Alpine. But I'm with you. I hope going into next season they keep it fair. Look, it's one world championship. Lando didn't dominate this season. It was a very equal world championship battle, and they need to continue that into next season if they have a car. I am just going to give a hot take. I know we'll do our predictions for next season in the turn of the new year, but I don't believe McLaren are going to be fighting for race wins next year in the way that they were this season.
No, I don't think they'll be as dominant this year, next year, sorry, compared to what they are. I think it's going to be tough. I do. And that's why I said before, I think this was Lando Norris's biggest opportunity to win a title, because I think when it comes to next year, who knows what's going to happen? Who knows what teams are going to perform well? Obviously, they're talking about the Mercedes engine is the best one, but who knows who's going to turn up when we turn up in Australia? So I agree. I think with McLaren, it's been positive that they've turned it around. They've had a really strong couple of years, winning, back-to-back Constructors' Championship, actually getting a Drivers' Champion as well. It's been phenomenal for them. I just want to finish talking about Lando Norris, because I don't know if you've seen the comments from Lando Norris's dad. And this is why sometimes some people just shouldn't be allowed to talk, because Lando Norris's dad was asked about, obviously, Lando Norris and his championship. And he had a little bit of a dig at Max Verstappen. Have you seen this?
I actually haven't. I have seen a few comments about, like, no one remembers who comes second. Is that the one you're on about?
This is the one. So he says, claiming no one will remember Max Verstappen finishing second in this year's championship. He said, I'm trying to think. I don't remember who came second. Maybe in the past 10 championships. People have been ill or DNF or engines, but you don't really remember it. You only remember the winner. And look, part of that is true. Okay, I get what he's trying to say here. But my God, like, your son's just won a championship. Let him have it, okay? Don't come out and start digging at Max Verstappen. That's not the guy you want to start digging at.
There's no need to be so smug either, is there? Like, you've just won the championship. Hold the trophy. That's being smug enough, man. You've won it. No, or your son has, whatever. If you feel that that's part of you as well, great, good for you. But there's no need to. Come on, you don't come out and dig out Max Verstappen, 4-time world champion, one of the greatest drivers that we've ever seen in F1, who almost bodied McLaren in this championship battle. Coming out, it reeked of. This is someone's father. I'm not going to come on here and insult them, but it did reek of entitlement and kind of that smugness of, like, oh yeah, well, no one remembers second place. Haha, my son did it. And it was just a bit like, let's be gracious in both winning and losing, because Max Verstappen, I feel, has been a very gracious loser, and he said himself he doesn't really feel like he lost because the nature of the title. But I did see a lot of comments. There was a lot of comments that Adam Norris, I believe his name is, said post-race that kind of pissed a lot of people off. And sometimes it is better to just not speak into a microphone. That's why me and Matt have to have qualifications to be able to do this.
But this goes back to what I said about, Lando Norris and his reputation. McLaren this year, there's been certain aspects of it which have caused Lando Norris's reputation to be tarnished a bit. You've seen in Monza, you saw him get booed in Mexico. You see, there's so many little things, and then all of a sudden you get people like his dad come out and say things like that because he's directly linked to Lando Norris. So people's perception will go to Lando Norris. Do you know what I mean? His reputation, because people around him are saying stuff which actually it's not fair on Lando Norris.
Yeah, which is obviously, I was going to say it's not fair on Lando Norris to. And look, I just want to say for the record, like the things that his dad said are not the worst things in the world. Like there are worse things. They were just kind of, they were a bit like, come on, man,
Well, he didn't help himself earlier in the year in Silverstone, did he? Do you remember that camera when the camera was on Adam Norris? And obviously they were celebrating. Obviously Hulkenberg got his podium, weren't they? So they were showing more of Hulkenberg, and Adam Norris was coming over. Oh, Lando pointing at something at the camera, saying something which I know he got a lot of stick earlier in the year about as well. So, it was just unnecessary.
Also, on the flip side of things, we have to look at this from the position of a parent. And some parents are just insufferable when it comes to their children. The kind of ones that show you pictures of them when you're like, I just don't care. I get that you like it, but just keep it to yourself. I don't want to look at your child. That's great that you love them that much, but I don't. And I think it's a little bit of that, like he clearly loves his child a lot and he is just gloating about them. Which is great, but just like do it in a private setting to like your wife because she loves him as well. We don't, unfortunately, not in the same way that you do.
Right, just finishing off McLaren. Yeah, phenomenal season. They've made massive strides even from last year. Obviously, last year they finished the constructors with 666 points. They finished this year with 833. They've truly dominated the constructor standings this year. There's been a lot of talking points about how they've caused their own downfall in certain aspects and I think they would have won this drivers' championship a lot earlier if it wasn't for that. But yeah, take nothing away from them. They've been phenomenal this year, and I think they've got a great driver pair in there. But I agree with you, Luke. I think heading into 2026, it's not going to be as comfortable as what they've been used to the last couple of years.
They are probably absolutely gutted that the regulations are changing at this point because they would be on for another World Championship battle next year, 100%. So it's come at a bad time for them, but is there ever a bad time to win a championship? I don't think so.
Did you see the FIA awards?
I did. What the hell is wrong with that guy?
Well, the FIA president.
Yeah. What's his obsession with grabbing Lando's hair? I'm sorry, he's at an award where he's just won the World Drivers' Championship. He's clearly put a lot of effort into how he looks. I don't care if you think this is stupid or not. I just think, what a freak. He's come on stage to collect his award or whatever, and you just go and scruff his hair up. I just think that's what are you doing? Is that not just weird behaviour?
Yeah, I looked at it and I was a bit like, you'd be annoyed, wouldn't you? You've taken it. No, it's your big day. You're getting the trophy. You're finally getting your hands on the Drivers' World Championship. Things you've worked for years, and you come on stage and you're being treated like a kid. Hello there, son. What's going on?
That's the sort of thing that triggers that primitive part of your brain that just makes you want to punch someone. You can't help. It's I don't know what, when someone tickles you right in the side and you're you don't know why, but you just want to punch them. That's exactly how I would have felt in that time. I just didn't know. It was just weird behaviour.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of comments afterwards. No one could really understand why it was literally treating him like a kid. But yeah, very strange, very strange. What team? Sorry.
What? Oh no, this is great. I've got another debate point for our next team. Okay.
Can I guess the team?
Yeah, but I think you're going to get it.
Is it Ferrari?
It is. Do you know what my debate point is?
Should Lewis retire?
No. Ferrari getting rid of Carlos Sainz for Lewis Hamilton was a mistake. Discuss.
I disagree. I don't think it's the case. I think taking on a 7-time world champion is not a mistake. I think there's a lot of aspects that have gone into this season which have made things a lot more difficult. Carlos Sainz is a very talented driver. It could be the worst move ever. But I think for Ferrari, for the brand, you never say no to a 7-time world champion. and a global icon like Lewis Hamilton. You just don't do it. So no, I don't think that's a mistake. I don't think they should regret it. Obviously, Carlos Sainz has gone on to do a great job at Williams. But I think 2026 is the big year for Ferrari, and I'm confident they will turn it around. But I still have faith in Lewis Hamilton. So no, I don't think it's a mistake.
Can I say why I believe it was a mistake?
You can.
We are the architects of our own future, right? Now, Ferrari spent obscene amounts of cash to get 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton in the cockpit of their car. Irrespective, I don't know what the word is. It's irrelevant about the performances. There's been a lot of rumours coming out of Ferrari that they are not taking on board anything that Lewis is saying. Coming in, giving all this information, handing in like dossiers, reports, etc. And none of that information is being used to make positive change at Ferrari. That is why I think signing him was a mistake, because what's the point? If you are going to spend that much money on him and not use him, it's a waste of your money. You know, like I say, the performances this season are irrelevant because the car was crap. I stand by this. I think Charles had a good season. I think Lewis didn't have a good season, but it was never really about this season. It is about 2026. So perhaps it's too early to tell, because they might have been taking on board everything Lewis has said for next season. But we know through rumours, strong rumours and reports, and even Lewis's comments in the pen sometimes, that Ferrari have systematic issues, like deeply rooted within that organisation. And I think if you're going to take the risk of getting rid of Carlos Sainz, incredible driver, you know, young, still got a long career ahead of him, to bring in Lewis Hamilton at the tail end of his career, but still a very good driver, and in my opinion, the greatest of all time. Debate all you like, my ears are shut. It's pointless if you're not going to take on board all of the feedback that he's giving you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you from that aspect. When I said I didn't think it was a mistake, I was looking at it from a...
No, that's why I thought I'd throw in that curveball perspective of like, well, actually, you could look at it as a mistake because...
Well, I think when you look at that, that's a mistake of the team, because if you don't invest that much money to then just kind of go, oh, we're not going to actually go and listen to you, that's a mistake of the team. That's not a mistake of Lewis Hamilton. That's not a mistake on...
It's like, the way I look at it is it's like, do you know what? I'm going to build a house. And then you buy all the materials. You spend hundreds of thousands of pounds on these materials. And then you just leave them in a pile on the land and don't do anything with it. Well, what's the point? You've just spent all the money on everything. Like, build the house. Yeah. They haven't done that.
No, I agree.
But we don't know. I do still think it's too early to tell with this whole Ferrari thing. I mean, you know, unfortunately for Lewis, he hasn't got necessarily time on his side. And I'm talking about biology here, that you simply cannot outrun age. But do I believe that if Lewis has a car, he can still win a championship? 100%.
Well, it's interesting because Charles Leclerc has said it's now or never for Ferrari, according to Charles Leclerc. He said it's such a big change, a huge opportunity to show what Ferrari is capable of, and it's now or never. So I really hope that we will start next year with a new era on the right foot, because it's important for the next 4 years after that. So we've said this before, Charles Leclerc, I think this is his final opportunity. If Ferrari don't do anything, he's more than capable to go on and win a world championship. I think if Ferrari don't provide something in the first or second season of this new era, he'll be gone. But yeah, I agree with him. It is now or never for Ferrari. Yeah,
no, it was a really rough season, and we've spoken before about how Ferrari have very little time to make sure they keep Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, which I'm sure they want to do, by the way. I'm absolutely certain they would want to keep Lewis Hamilton at that team. But yeah, next season is a big season, and let's look at their trend throughout the ground effect era. 2022, 554 points. they end 2025 on 398 points. Now, their best season was actually 2024, last season, where they got 652 points. They dropped 254 points this season. So it's all well and good coming in and being like, oh, look, Lewis's season was so bad, like they fucked up. The team has gone backwards. All right, that's if you were to look at Ferrari's ground effect era on a chart, it would look like a pyramid. Okay, they came up and then they came down. So they are going to have to hit the ground running in 2026, or it's. I said this before. How long can you run off legacy? How long can you run off being an iconic name? Because I'm not being funny. It's gonna get to a point where people are not gonna want to go there anymore. The best drivers are not going to want to go.
They've done a good job of doing it so far. What, 18 years?
They have. They've done it. I don't understand it, but this is what I say. How long does that go on for? If Ferrari don't win a world championship for another 100 years, are the best drivers still going to be going there? Are they still going to be saying, oh yeah, but look at what Michael did there? I don't think they are. I think there comes a point where that goes, just because they're Ferrari.
I also think it's just the brand in itself. You know, Ferrari is a brand, not just within F1, but generally. You wouldn't go, do you know what? I bought a Haas the other day. Do you know what I mean? But if you go Ferrari, you look at a brand and you're like, yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
I know, but okay, flip that argument on its head. If you're Max Verstappen and we come into this new era of cars and Haas are comfortably the quickest car and Ferrari are the worst car on the grid, you get a call next season from both of them. Max, we'd love you to come and join. What team do you go to?
Do you know what? I still think it would be Ferrari. However, no. Listen to what I'm about to say. I think it would be Ferrari because I think as a driver, as a world champion like Max Verstappen, you think you could go to Ferrari and bring back the success. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing of kind of going, I could be that driver who could bring that success back to Ferrari. Also, I will get given a Ferrari. If I go to Haas, then what are they going to give me?
You can buy a Ferrari. You're a Formula One driver.
No, but do you see what I mean? I think if you're...
No, I get it.
You must have it in you as a driver to go, I could actually go there and make that difference. I could go there and be that first person to win a championship in 18, 19, 20 years.
Yeah, I get it. I get the heritage of the brand. I really do. But that has to cease to exist at some point. No? I mean... I'm keen to hear your thoughts at home. Like, what do you think? Does there come a point where that does cease to exist? If they go 50, 60, 70 years without winning a championship, which, by the way, is entirely possible. Some teams have never won a world championship. Like, it could go on for a long time.
Actually, come to think of it, it could be more impressive to go and say, do you know what? I won the first world championship at Haas.
I mean, come on, tell me that wouldn't be cool. That would be
Gunther
cool.
Steiner.
I do want to stress for the record for anyone, I hope Ferrari turn it around. I hope they come out. And that's not just because Lewis is there. That is because I believe Ferrari are a team that should be fighting at the forefront of F1 every single season.
Looking back at this season, though, I think the turning point was China. As soon as they got disqualified, you just saw... It just went downhill for the remainder of the season. I think, when you look at last season... Finishing P2 in the Constructors, 652 points, fantastic. Two great drivers, Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc. To then come into this year, again, with two fantastic drivers in Lewis Hamilton and Leclerc. To get that sprint win in China, to then get disqualified in the race, that was a real turning point. And because that was done so early in the season, and we've said it before, they changed like 99% of the car from last year. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are you mucking around with such a drastic change? And it is a drastic change, and you see that within the actual performance. They finished P4 in the Constructors. So that comes from top down. That's a drastic change that they made, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, it's... I hope it's not a telling of the future with this sort of new structure that we've got a Ferrari, new figures. part of me really hopes they were making changes to set themselves up for 2026, but I think that's the dreamer inside of me speaking. It was a season to forget for Ferrari, not one of their proudest, but like I say, I do stand by the fact that Charles Leclerc had a good season, and I think given the circumstances, he'll walk away into the winter break thinking, I did a pretty good job. Lewis is going to probably do a lot more reflecting over the winter break, but come on. Lando Norris himself said it. I thought the world champion has said that if anyone can come back, it's Mr. Hamilton.
Right, and he's in Leclerc. He's had a good year as well. He's now engaged. So fine. And actually, Luke, come to think of it, on the podcast, I've obviously congratulated you off the podcast, but I haven't congratulated you on the podcast. So congratulations on your engagement as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. That is true.
All grown up now.
Yeah, no, I am. I mean, it's about time. Believe it or not, I know I look devilishly young. I am 29 years old, so it was about time that I got engaged. And yeah, I tied it in with Charles. We dropped each other a message and said, this weekend.
Was it the same weekend?
But no.
I was going to say that would be like, you could use that. Yeah, you could use that.
I
what
think
team?
He got engaged before.
Do you think the ring was roughly the same price?
Yeah, well, we probably had a similar budget, because we earn a similar amount. I just rather catch a Ryanair flight than a private jet. I'm humble, down to earth.
Yeah, sure. Right.
I have another point for our new team.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yep.
George Russell is the second best driver on the grid. Discuss.
What are you basing that on? Because if you're basing
this is a topic. You base your opinion on whatever you want to base it on.
All right, I disagree. I don't think he's the second best driver on the grid. I think when you're looking at it, you've obviously got Max Verstappen, P1. I then think it is close between. And look, Lando's won a championship. You can't say that he's not one of the better drivers on the grid. I would probably say between him and Oscar Piastri, P2. But yeah, it's tough. If you had a category of putting all three in P2, then yes, you could say Oscar Piastri, George Russell, and Lando Norris. They're probably similar on performance.
Okay. So you're starting a new team.
Yep.
MJack V8s, right? That's your team name.
What's it called?
MJack V8s, because you're MJack 8, so it's just MJack V8.
Okay, yeah. All right, like it.
Good pun that. You've got a pool of drivers, and you're thinking, right, I need to reach out. I need to get someone in my seat. You've got one spot left. Doesn't matter who the other driver is at the moment. You can get George Russell, Oscar Piastri, or Lando Norris. Right? They've each said, yeah, I'll sign this contract. Who are you giving it to? For me, there is one clear answer here.
Oscar.
No. George Russell gets that contract every single day of the week. And twice on Sundays.
Okay. Not Esteban Ocon?
No, he wasn't even in the discussion. I wouldn't even take Ocon over Behrman. And that's not an insult. That's just saying that Esteban Ocon is, he's never going to be a world champion. And that's fine.
So you're saying George Russell is better than Lando Norris?
I believe George Russell is the second best driver at this point in time on the grid. And I think there's evidence to back that up. I think George Russell has never had a car that is capable of winning a world championship or consistently winning races. But George Russell has always been that driver that, the Mercedes has not been great. Yet George Russell is still in these conversations. George Russell has been picking up podiums. George Russell has been picking up race wins, albeit very few. When that car is able to do something, he is able to pull it out of it. And he's been very consistent through the whole ground effect era. You know, he looked very strong up against Lewis. And I know we can discuss that Lewis hasn't looked comfortable in these cars or whatever, but George Russell came in to Mercedes off the back of one of the greatest ever seasons, you know, from both Lewis and Max. And George Russell looked very strong. I think all he's done is looked better and better as the years have gone on. And I think if you put George in a title fight with pretty much anyone, I would have my money on him to come out on top. I think the one person that excels against him on the track is Max Verstappen, because Max is the best driver in the world at the moment. But I think George Russell, I take him over anyone at this point in time, other than Max.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with you on that. I think you're right. I think George Russell has excelled, but I still think Oscar, for me, look, I'm not saying that there's miles apart between George and Oscar. In my opinion, I don't believe that at all. But I just think
Oscar didn't even beat Lando in the championship. If we're gonna go down that path, you know, I'm gonna start pulling punches. Well, I'm not gonna
but you know,
punches,
McLaren sabotaged his car.
Okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking before people start getting triggered.
If George Russell was at McLaren this season, who wins the World Championship? Because no.
Okay. You're spot on. You are actually, the more you've George Russell would win the championship. Yeah. Okay. There you go. Fair point. Fair point.
Comment down below if you agree.
Yeah. No. Fair point.
As for Mercedes, right?
Sorry.
I'm just touching on Mercedes.
Yeah.
Obviously, a very strange season for them. They're first without Lewis Hamilton since 2013. They had young Kimi Antonelli come in, and it was a tough start for Kimi, but he really did. We did see, you know, big improvements in that second half of the season. I mean, he was comfortably beaten by George Russell, the second best driver on the grid, but I think everyone knew that was going to happen. I know there was a lot of hype around Kimi, but he's a young man. George Russell is a very good driver. It was quali head-to-head was 21-3, race was 21-3, and sprint was 5-1. But do you think Mercedes are happy with their driver partnership moving forward?
Yeah, I think they will be. I think when you look at, we've said throughout the season, Kimi needed to start proving himself. And I think what he's done, his qualifying needs to be better heading into 2026. That needs to change. But I think his race performances have generally been pretty good in the second half of the season. He's obviously picked up podiums. I think they'll be happy with him. I think there'll be enough confidence heading into 2026. Actually, they've got a good driver pairing. I agree with you. George Russell on his day can take that car to wins and podiums. So I think they'll be generally happy with how the season has gone. Finishing P2 in the constructors this year, you know, 1 point more than they did last year when they finished P4, which is just mental. So they jumped 2 places, but they've only gained 1 extra point this year. And doing that with a rookie as well, I think they'll be delighted with that.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a strange season in terms of constructors, because like you say, they jumped 2 positions by gaining 1 extra point. And I think a big part of that was Ferrari really fell off. And for all the jokes that we made last season about Red Bull having 1 driver, holy smokes, this season they genuinely only had 1 driver. And obviously it wasn't quite as dominant for Red Bull this season as it was last year. So yeah, it was, but again, they capitalised on it, and the reason they were able to do so was because George Russell was Mr. Consistent once again. He was always there picking up the points that he could. He was always there extracting the best out of this car. And I tell you, if the rumours are true, next season George Russell is going to be one hell of a title contender.
And I think that battle, if it is Max Verstappen, I think, yeah, those two will go. It'd be a brilliant watch because we've seen great battles between both of those. One quick question, okay? So we've seen Kimi come into the team this year. If you're Toto Wolff, you come to the end of the season, but you had the opportunity to re-sign Lewis Hamilton and say, Kimi, look, you've done all right, but we think we want to bring back Lewis. Would you do it?
That's really tough. That is really tough because, look, no one's going to sit here at this point, I don't think, unless you're sitting in some sort of asylum. I don't think anyone is going to sit here and say, oh, Kimi Antonelli is a better driver than Lewis Hamilton, even at this point in time. Okay, I'm not talking about history or anything. I just don't think anyone would say that just yet. But Mercedes are committing to this. If you commit to getting an 18-year-old into your car, you can't then swap him out with the second oldest driver on the grid, regardless of stature, legacy, even at that team. But at the same time, if you are Mercedes and you know that you've got a car that is going to win a world championship next season, it would be hard to say no to Lewis Hamilton, would it not? But then,
No.
if you know it's going to win it, is having George Russell, who we know will be a very, very strong title competitor, is it worth giving him that competition? Because if they've got a car that is going to win a world championship next season, you could say with relative certainty that George Russell will be the man to do it fairly comfortably. I believe Kimi still needs a year or two to work up to that level if he's going to reach it. George Russell would do that. Why would you bring in competition? It's not like you'd be worrying, thinking like, oh shit, if we've got a car that's fighting at the front, we're not going to have the guys to do it. You are. You're going to look at George Russell and be like, yeah, no problem. He'll take it to anyone. If Red Bull have a car that is capable of winning, George will fight Max to the death, and that's great. I don't think you need to take the risk.
No, yeah, I agree. Do let us know. Would you replace Antonelli with Lewis Hamilton? Finishing on Mercedes, very strong season. They'll be delighted with that. 469 points, P2 in the Constructors. They'll be lining up next to McLaren in the pit lane. But yeah, I think Toto will be generally happy with that. And I think they'll be happy that this era of car is over.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the hilarious thing about Mercedes is that their best season in this ground effect era was 2002. The W13, no side pods. And I think the reason... It's funny because I think about Mercedes, even though I can see the stats in front of me right now, I think of Mercedes and I think, wow, how bad was 2022? And I think they've had a much better year this year. Factually incorrect. They have not. They scored more points in 2022. They scored more points in 2022 than they did in 24 and in 23. 24, which I actually thought was a really good season in comparison to how I felt about 2022. But I think that might be because the disparity between 2022 and 2021 in terms of performance was huge. So expectation was so much higher, whereas expectation for Mercedes has kind of gone down and performance has just kind of stayed relatively similar. It's only a 46-point difference between 22 and now. But, I mean, to be fair, here's an interesting take on it. The reason we might consider 2025 to be like a good season for Mercedes is because George Russell actually scored 319 points. Like, that's a lot. When Lewis was there, the point scoring was far more even between the two drivers. So, when they finished on 515 points, I haven't got these figures in front of me. It probably would have been something like 250 to 265 points, as opposed to 319 and 150. It requires better finishing, obviously, to get 319 points as opposed to 250. So that's probably why it seems like they've had a better season.
Yeah, no, I agree. Red Bull. Let's get on to Red Bull, shall we? 589 points last year in the Constructors, 451. Like Luke said, Max has literally just ran his team on his own this year. It was a very tough start to the season. Liam Lawson came in. There was a lot of hype around him. Lasted 2 races. Got replaced by Yuki Tsunoda. Didn't really work at all. they've lost Christian Horner. Laurent Mekies has come in, and actually, fair play to him. He has come in and he has stabilised this team. For the second half of this season, they've really turned it around. And, there's a lot of factors to their success in the second half of the season. A lot of things is probably to do with McLaren. But ultimately, take nothing away from the team. They basically gave us a title fight to the end. And it was very impressive, wasn't it?
It was an unbelievable turnaround from Red Bull. And yeah, a team that had like quite a lot of instability from the first part of the season, and obviously a very disgruntled Max Verstappen with the performance of the car. They did a very impressive job to turn it around. But I have a debate topic for this one. Are you ready for this one?
Yep.
Strap in, boys and girls. Liam Lawson would have scored more points than Yuki Tsunoda had they have kept him in the team this season. Discuss.
No. I think Yuki Tsunoda is still a better driver than Liam Lawson. We've said that before. We really like Yuki. His performances in that RB before he got that seat at Red Bull were brilliant. Last season in 2024, he really stepped it up and he looked a far greater driver than Liam Lawson. So no, I don't think Liam Lawson would have got any more points than Yuki Tsunoda if he did remain at Red Bull.
I think I agree with that. I don't know. I really don't know. I stand by the fact that it was harsh to get rid of Liam Lawson after 2 races, because I wouldn't necessarily say Yuki Tsunoda came in and did a significantly better job. And what I mean by significantly is not the gap between the 2 performances, but significantly in the sense that it needed to be significantly better where he was making an impact. If Liam Lawson was finishing every race P20 and Yuki Tsunoda came in and finished every race P11, that's not significant because he's not scoring points. They needed someone to come in to start scoring points. And ultimately, if they had someone that was competing at the front, I'm not saying racing Max Verstappen every race, but some races, maybe entertaining the McLarens, Max Verstappen could have gone on and won the championship. Imagine if we get to Abu Dhabi and they've got a car that is in the mix, and all of a sudden, if that car finishes P3 and Lando Norris finishes P4, Max Verstappen is a 5-time world champion. I know there's way more things during the season that could have occurred had that have been the case, but that's why you need 2 drivers. That is the difference between a world championship and not getting a world championship. So I think, I don't know whether Liam Lawson would have done a better job, but I don't think it would have been significantly better, in the same way that I don't think Yuki Tsunoda was significantly better than Liam Lawson.
No,
I think they just made the wrong decision, and ultimately they had to kind of put a plaster over a wound that was gushing. It didn't really do the job, but it kept them alive until the end of the season.
I'm really glad that actually Laurent Mekies came in and brought success back to Red Bull. I think there was a lot of speculation that Christian Horner going would mean that actually the team would just basically fall apart. But actually to see them still come back and, dominate, they won the final 3 races of the season, for them to come back and do that is a lot of positives. But I have one take, Luke. Okay.
Can I just quickly say on that point, before you give your hot take, just because I think this is kind of it's an area of the sport that as fans we don't really give enough credit to the whole team. We kind of only see and know the big names. You think of Red Bull. I'm going back like last year. You think like Jonathan Wheatley, Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, Helmut Marko. You only think of the big names, right? But interestingly, all 4 of those characters are not at that team anymore. Praise the Lord, Helmut Marko is out of the sport. About time. He says, taking a sip of a Red Bull. But it goes to show that these teams are way more and way bigger than the big names that we hear about as F1 fans like regularly. So I think, I just think that's something that I am now going to be more conscious of. You know, if someone had told me in 2023 that come the end of 2025, Christian Horner, Adrian Newey, Jonathan Wheatley, and Helmut Marko are no longer going to be at Red Bull, I would be thinking, holy smokes, what went on there? Like, that team must be absolutely mudded. No, just been in a championship fight till the end of the season. You know, took it to Abu Dhabi and then lost the championship by 2 points. I'd be like, yeah, fair play. That team is way bigger than the individuals there.
Yeah, I agree. Right, my hot take. All right. Max Verstappen won't win another world championship. And I want to hear your view on this, because I've seen a few clips going around. Okay, I don't necessarily believe it. I think he will. But Max Verstappen within this era of cars has dominated. Okay, he won in 2021, granted, but this era of car he has absolutely dominated. We're now going into a new era of car where we as fans, and I even think teams, aren't really sure how it's all going to go. We've seen drivers, you know, over the years go into new eras of cars. Look at Lewis Hamilton in this era. He hasn't been able to get hold of it. Do you think Max will win another world championship now we're going into this new era of cars? Because you've seen some champions, they can't do it when they go into a new era. Can Max Verstappen?
Yes. I know what you think. It's funny because I've seen things like the Seb comparison. You know, but am I right in saying this? If Max Verstappen wins a championship in the new era of cars, he will be the only ever driver to win a championship in 3 different eras of car.
I believe that's true, yeah.
That would be quite impressive. I think if anyone's going to do it, why would it not be Max Verstappen? I think the only reason that Max Verstappen would not win another world championship would be because of the teams that he's at. I don't believe Max Verstappen would not win a world championship because of his own driving ability. I don't think we'd see Max Verstappen struggle at this stage of his career. You know, if Max is still racing when he gets a little bit older, then things do change, you know. Age is no friend of ours. I don't think we'd see... This is probably the best way to explain what I'm thinking. I don't think we'd see Isaac Hadjar outperform Max Verstappen next season, like we saw Daniel Ricciardo outperform Sebastian Vettel in 2014.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that.
And I think Max Verstappen is the best placed driver in the world right now, because if Red Bull don't hit the ground running next year, he can go to any team before 2027 and be like, do you want me? You know, he can go to the best team on the grid and be like, I'm available. And they'd be like, yeah, come in. We'll pay whatever you want.
I think that's interesting, isn't it? When you look at throughout this season, there's been a lot of speculation that he'll be going to Mercedes, Aston Martin. But I think for Max, finishing this year, he actually looks settled in this team. He actually looks like he looks more relaxed. And I think heading into 2026, I think he's in a perfect position now to continue forward with the team. Whereas maybe earlier in the year, there was a lot of tension with his dad, Christian Horner, Helmut Marko. So to actually see him a bit more relaxed now is actually quite nice to see.
Yeah, but what I will say is that Max Verstappen is not a driver that is going to settle for just scoring points. No. You know, Max, if Red Bull do not hit the ground running in 2026, they will lose Max Verstappen. And call me crazy, whatever you want, that is a fact. That will happen. He will not stick around if Red Bull do not nail this next era of cars, because he's at the top of his game. Why would he? You know, he can go to anywhere and get a seat. He will go where the wins are. Rightfully so, by the way. I will back him for doing that.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a prime position, isn't he? If you have a tough year next year, see you later. I've done everything I can for this team. I don't owe you anything. The team don't owe him anything. and teams on that grid will snap him up easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, let us know what your thoughts are on Red Bull, but generally a very good season, finishing P3 in the constructors isn't ideal, but I think hopefully see a bit better next year for that side. But actually going down to the final day in a Drivers' Championship is very impressive. So I've been impressed with Red Bull come the end of the season. Where should we go? Let's go to Aston Martin. Interestingly, last year they finished on 94 points. They finished on 89 this year. When I look at Aston Martin, I think they've had an awful season. But realistically, the constructors, there's not really much difference in points. Considering that Fernando Alonso didn't score a point until, 8 races in? 9 races in, something like that?
It took him a while. I mean, the problem for Aston Martin in this era was 2023. That's why they look like such failures now. And I cannot tell you how many times I've come on here and said that Aston Martin are a team that are building something long term, right? Do not take your eye off Aston Martin, because everything that team is doing, bar one thing, which I'm sure we'll discuss, is absolutely spot on. So I think they truly, genuinely are a team to watch in 2026. However, they are going to struggle to win anything with Lance Stroll. That's just my opinion. And I think I probably share that opinion with the majority of F1 fans. Look, they're quality.
Luke. We cannot get rid of Lance Stroll. He's our only saving grace for carnage. Okay?
He's not even our Latifi. He's not. Because if he was, he would have binned it at Abu Dhabi for us and given us something to get excited about at that race. He's been outqualified 24-0 by 40, God knows how old, 44, 43 years old Fernando Alonso.
It could have gone either way.
Yeah, it was tight. Look, Fernando, his age takes nothing away from him. Fernando Alonso is a 2-time world champion, but that to me is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Any other driver in that position would be losing their seat next season. Okay? Other than... not even Colapinto got out-qualified by Gasly the whole time. And I know the race head-to-head was a little bit closer, 16-8. I mean, it's still not great showing, but that 24-0 is big. And this is where I think Aston Martin will really kick themselves if they do have a competitive car in 2026. Lance Stroll is going to make a championship battle difficult. And can I just state this? I would love if Lance Stroll proved me wrong. If they have a car that is fighting at the front of the field next season, and all of a sudden he's a fucking monster, just because he just couldn't be asked because he didn't have the car, and he's just been sort of dossing these seasons, I'd respect that. If he came out next season and was absolutely killer, I would love that. But I think we'd be lucky to see something like that.
Okay, I got a theory, right? I don't think Aston Martin will be successful next year. I backed it because they brought in Adrian Newey. They invested a lot of money in actually looking for the future. But it seems like they're still not really settled on the direction they want to go in. Bringing Adrian Newey as team principal, for me, doesn't seem like the right option. I think, like you say, they're still holding on to Lance Stroll. I still don't... They're doing the right things by investing in the right people, but they're still not doing everything right by getting rid of Lance Stroll and bringing in a driver who can actually take them on to win championships. I still don't think they're going to be as competitive as what we think next year.
I can understand that. I mean, I fully agree with your point that making Adrian Newey team principal is crazy. He's going to have so much other shit to focus on that it's going to take him away from the car. That I just don't get it. I really don't. It makes no sense to bring in the world's greatest ever car designer and then assign him other responsibilities. No, that might seem like a crazy opinion to some of you, but I don't really know how anyone would disagree with that.
Unless he's absolutely cracked it and already he's built a world championship car that, like we've said before, perhaps he got there and goes, look lads, I'm done. Anything else you want me to do?
Yeah, they could just be trying to get their money's worth out of him. Absolutely. I get that. They don't want him dossing about. So every time they walk into his office, he's just snoozing on the sofa because he's already drawn the car. I think it is a strange one. Aston Martin do so much right, and then I think they do the critical things a little bit wrong. But come on, I think Aston Martin are going to have to be on your ones to watch list for next season, because we know they've got the Mercedes engine. If the rumours are true, that is going to be a big positive. They've got Adrian Newey, but ultimately, look, if Fernando Alonso has a car that is capable of winning, I firmly believe that man will get it to win. So yeah. I just think you need two drivers, because Fernando Alonso is not Max Verstappen. Yeah,
no, I agree. Right, Williams. Well, what can we say about Williams? Last year they got 17 points. This year they finished.
Hang on. Is this the greatest comeback since Jesus?
I mean, they haven't won the championship.
Yeah, but come on, that turnaround was quite incredible.
Yeah, but we've seen it coming. We've said this before on the podcast. James Vowles going in there was the right move. Always the right move. Williams have finally decided to bring in a good team principal in James Vowles. They finally decided to get rid of these drivers who are poor, Logan Sargent, Latifi, and invest in a good driver in Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. They're now going in the right direction. When you invest in those key areas, you're always going to make strides. And that's exactly what they've done. 17 points last year, 137 points this year, 2 podiums. James Vowles, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, phenomenal job. Really, really phenomenal job. P5 in the constructors. It's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, as a percentage-wise, I haven't got the percentage, but it is the greatest increase, not only from the start of the era to the end of the era, but also season on season. It was in 2022, they finished the season on 8 points. 2024, you would argue this is quite an increase. This is over a 100% increase. They finished on 17 points. Well, come 2025, they finished on 137 points with 2 podiums in the bank. I mean, they are not... I bet their Christmas party is going to be quite exquisite, because they owe that team a couple of glasses of champers, because they have done a good job. And like you say, a lot of it is in the decision making, making the right or hiring the right people, whether that's within the team that we don't see, or whether it's team principal like James Vowles, and then drivers such as Carlos Sainz. We knew they had a good driver in Alex Albon anyway. Alex Albon has been with them for a few seasons now, and we knew they had a driver that was going to do bits for them when he was able to. But they did always suffer from that kind of one driver syndrome, where they were giving these seats to drivers that just weren't good enough, and then kind of hanging on to them for too long. Nicholas Latifi, as much as we love him, an icon of the sport, he was not good enough. Do you know what came up on my Explore page just today? It was this morning. I'm sorry, because I can't remember what track it was. I want to say it was Suzuka, but that might be a lie. Where he just turned the car down into one of the escape roads.
That was Suzuka.
It was, and he was just like, I don't know what happened there. The car, really strange. Yeah, I'll tell you what happened. You turned it not into the corner. You turned it into. You took a wrong turn, buddy.
He wasn't driving a Tesla, was he? He didn't just put in it, self-navigation. It was he drove it.
It was him. It was not the Tesla, and then they bring in Logan Sargent, and I think Williams perhaps became a team victim to following the money. I think they brought in drivers that carried good sponsorship money rather than drivers that are going to bring results and performances. And
But
ultimately, it has a knock-on effect.
I understand that. I understand that because that's what teams have to do to survive.
But I disagree with that. I think that is what kept Williams buried for too long. I think what makes a team survive? Survival is about picking up points. Okay? And I get it. You have to be able to fund it from somewhere. But come on. Results speak for themselves. Sponsors will come on board when you are picking up results. I think that's the best way to do it. I'm telling you, 2026, Williams, or let's say throughout 2025, they've probably had more sponsors knocking on their doors than they have in years.
Yeah. Oh,
I bet
that's
they've got money begging to flow in.
That's ultimately down to the signing of Carlos Sainz. That was the best business move they made by signing Carlos Sainz because they automatically got the Santander deal, which was a ridiculous amount of money, which Ferrari lost, which Williams gained. It all comes down to the decision making on who you're bringing in, and also that belief in who you're investing in. Because, like, if I had billions of pound, whatever, and I looked at the teams on that grid, I'd be like, I'd feel comfortable investing in Williams because of James Vowles and the way he's moving the team forward and his decision making in the driver lineup. And if I had that amount of money, one, I probably wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'll be going to every race every year. But also, I would be going, yeah, I want to invest in that team. It's an historic team. They're going in the right direction. Yeah, I get it.
Well, look, I mean, if you'd done it, you would have done it pre-2025 because the valuation was low, but the expectation was high. So you would have gone into everyone expected Williams to look all right in 2025 because of the moves they had been making. So now everyone's anticipating 2026 to be a decent year for them. But look, Williams by far had in my opinion, the best turnaround in the ground effect era. And I know some of you are going to say, what about McLaren? I think you have to look at this circumstantially as well and understand that Williams do not have the same resources at their disposal that McLaren do. McLaren are a team that should be at the front and they should have been able to turn that around. And they did. I'm not taking anything away from them. But Williams are not that caliber of team anymore. They don't have a huge car brand name behind them. They are their own team. They are Williams, and to be able to turn it around like that is huge. They've gone from having Nicholas Latifi behind the wheel, and I don't want to disrespect anyone here, but they've gone from having Nicholas Latifi behind the wheel to having Carlos Sainz in his place. I think it really shows the ambition of the team and where they're trying to take it. So Williams will be ending on a high.
Yeah, no, I agree. Right, let's go to RB. Massive jump, 46 points last year, finishing on 92 points. The biggest standout for them is Isaac Hadjar, and that's already shown in him being promoted to Red Bull for next year. Isaac Hadjar has come in, Yuki Tsunoda has left, and they needed someone to step up. For a rookie to come in and do that is very impressive. He's outperformed Liam Lawson still. RB, they've done a phenomenal job this year.
Yeah, I mean, I always feel sorry for RB because I know it's the nature of the team, so we shouldn't. But it's kind of like it's kind of like you hear of those stories where like this is quite dark. I'm sorry, where parents have like a second baby to like use it to keep the other one alive, like for whatever medical reason. Like you would have heard of the stories before. You're a nurse. You should have heard these stories before.
Yeah.
That is essentially the purpose of racing bulls. They're never going to be a team that is able to, they're probably looking at Isaac Hadjar thinking like, what a fucking touch. I can't believe we've got this guy. And then Red Bull are just like, yeah, by the way, we're having him next season. And they're probably like, oh, brilliant. Like, it's like your big brother like taking something off you that you just bought from the shop. You buy a big bag of sweets and he just punches you and nicks them from you. There's nothing you can do about it. So that is probably how...
Is this from experience?
Yeah, definitely from experience. So... I can
understand Jamie taking his sweets. That makes sense.
That's what went wrong for him. That is that's probably how they feel. And then it gets even worse because then Red Bull are like, oh, we don't like this one anymore. Here, take him back. And they're like, well, we don't want him either now. And they just get stuck with Liam Lawson, who I actually had a really big turnaround in the end. So I'm not disrespecting him, but yeah, I think a pretty good season for Racing Bulls. But then they're never going to be a team that come out and are fighting for championships, and that's fine. They kind of exist in their space because of Red Bull, and that is just the way it goes. Next season they've got Lawson, Arvid Lindblad, so it's I think another exciting season for Racing Bulls. It's another young driver coming through the academy. I just hope they make the right decisions, because there has been a lot of wrong decisions made by this Red Bull conglomerate, whatever you want to call them, and Racing Bulls are firmly within that. I hope it just works out for them. I think what we often see, or what we have seen more recently in modern times, is that they tend to keep one to keep stability, and I hope that is Liam Lawson. Like we saw with Pierre Gasly. I hope we get that, where Lawson kind of finds a bit of consistency. But his Red Bull dream is dead, and that was a really horrible start to the season for him. But yeah, Isaac Hadjar, like you said, look, I'm sure we'll do Rookie of the Year at some point, but no spoilers, but Isaac Hadjar is mine.
Right, let's get on to Haas. It's weird. They finished P7 in the Constructors last year, but they finished P8 this year, but they've got almost 21 more. Well, they have got 21 more points. So Haas last year, 58 points. Haas this year, 79 points. Look, first year for Ollie Behrman, phenomenal season for him. Ocon as well, first season with Haas. They've got a really good driver lineup there, and they seem to be working really well.
Yeah, I mean, look, shout out Ollie Behrman. One of my worst takes of the season was that Ollie Behrman will be a flop. I didn't think he was as good as people made out, and as we mentioned, Ollie Behrman, I know people are going to want us to at least touch on it. And do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Have you seen all the leaked messages from Ollie Behrman on what I believe is a Discord channel?
No.
I actually can't. Do you live under a rock?
Yep.
There's been quite a lot of stuff, him coming out making some derogatory comments kind of towards Lewis when he was younger. But I don't really want to talk about it, to be honest. I just know people would say something if we didn't touch on it. Go and look at them yourselves. I think there's a lot of... I'm not educated enough on this. I've just seen some of it. So I think if people do want to find out more, go online, but form your own opinions on the matter, and don't believe everything you see on the internet.
Okay.
But Ollie Behrman made me look a right twat this season, so I'm unhappy with him for that, because I expected Ollie Behrman to come in and not be that good. I gave a pretty firm stance that I believed he should have... Maybe unreasonably, and fair enough if you think I'm a knob for this, but I thought he should have done better in the Ferrari, which at the time was the second best car on the grid, and he finished 6th or 7th, whatever it was. I felt like if he was as good as people were making out, he should have finished on the podium. But he came in to the Haas this season and made me look a right mug, put in an exceptional second half of the season performance, and beat Esteban Ocon, who is a very, very experienced F1 driver. So, yeah, fair play. I know he's going to be a lot of people's rookie of the year. And I think Haas are going to be fairly comfortable with their driver lineup moving forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's that Behrman agenda you had, didn't it? Right, let's talk about Kick Sauber. Look, 4 points last year. 70 points this year. A podium in Silverstone for Nico Hulkenberg. Jonathan Wheatley coming in. Bonotto there. Like, this team is going in the right direction, heading into their new team of Audi for 2026. they've had a very, very impressive season with Bortoleto coming in. They've got a fantastic driver pairing, a really good foundation they've built this year, and there's a lot of positivity heading into 2026.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, I wrote their season off. I said, look, everyone knows that Sauber is going to be the worst car this season. And if they pick up 0 points, it does not matter because it's all about the longer term project. Audi coming in, getting Bortoleto some solid lap time. Actually, they had a great season for, under the circumstances. I know they finished P9, but
do you know what the mad thing about that is though? They finished P9, but if you went by last year's, they would have actually finished P6 in the constructors.
It's great. This does kind of happen when you get to the final year of regulations. The field does sort of tighten up. But I mean that's incredible, isn't it? The difference between P9 and P6 season on season. That if they finish P6, oh my god, that would have been an amazing season for them. But I think the interesting thing about this is the efficiency of Hulkenberg. Okay, the quali head to head, Bortoleto actually beat him in that at 12-1, but then Hulkenberg was 12-11. Sorry, Hulkenberg was then 12-11 in the race head to head, which I think tells us all we need to know that they've got two very competent drivers, that are very evenly matched. But Hulkenberg's efficiency, he got 51 points compared to Bortoleto's 19. So Hulkenberg was picking up those vital points when he was finishing ahead in those races. But I think they'll look at that statistically and be like, yeah, we've got two quick drivers here. No one looks at Nico Hulkenberg and thinks, you're a bang average driver. Everyone thinks Nico Hulkenberg is a good driver. Well, Bortoleto has kept up with him this season. He's matched him. They're pretty much head to head. They're pretty much equal on the head to head. So I think going into next season with the project, they'll be delighted with how they've looked this season. I don't mean the car, I mean the drivers. And it is exciting times for them. They've laid the foundations now.
100%. What have we got left? I really don't want to talk about this team.
This is the only team we've got to talk about.
Look, Alpine. If you've listened to the podcast this year, you know my opinions on Alpine. They are a joke of a team. They are, and I really don't want to speak too much about them. They finished P10 with 22 points. They finished P6 last year with 65 points. Look, they got rid of Ocon on the final race of last year. I thought that was a bit harsh. Come into this year with Jack Doohan and Pierre Gasly. I have a lot of time for Pierre Gasly, but my God, he's had a hell of a season and he cannot wait to get rid of that car, which fortunately it's happened for him. But Alpine, I'm disappointed. Only a few years ago, you were fighting with McLaren for P4, P5 in the constructors, and now you just look like a joke of a team. There's no stability. You're changing team principles. You're changing drivers. You seem content now with keeping Colapinto for another season where, granted, Pierre Gasly hasn't really done much this season either, but it doesn't look great, does it?
No, not really. I mean, look, they ended 2022 on 173 points. They finished this season on 22 points. It's crazy. And I mean, like you say, that I did start this season saying a lot of the teams are not going to be massively concerned with where they finish in the constructors this season. And I think that's a fair point, unless you're one of the top teams, like Mercedes, McLaren, Red Bull and Ferrari. I think they would truly be the only ones that were concerned. I think Williams will be so happy that they ended up where they did end up. But if they finished bottom, I think most teams were more focused on next year. They needed to see their drivers perform consistently and show that they were able to do the best that they were able to with the cars that they had underneath them. And Pierre Gasly showed us that.
Yeah.
Colapinto didn't. I stand by this, and I know Colapinto fans are passionate, and I know they're going to comment like coming from my head, and that's fine. But it hasn't been good enough from Colapinto this season, and I'm not going to get into this argument with them every single time I speak about him, because I've always said I want Colapinto to do well. I like him. I want him to succeed, but I think part of the issue with Alpine is that perhaps Jack Doohan wasn't good enough, and also Colapinto isn't good enough. But next season will be a teller. And I always say that when I say something, I give a negative opinion about a driver, I always want them to prove me wrong. I don't want to be right about those things. I want to be right about, if I came out and said Colapinto is going to be a world champion, I want to be right about that. I don't want to be right about saying I don't think he'll be successful next year. I'd much rather be wrong. But he didn't give me much confidence at Williams. And, I got a lot of stick for that. But he hasn't really, fueled me with any more belief in this stint at Alpine.
No.
No points. No points. And I saw people celebrating on Twitter the other day because he didn't crash. And they were like, oh, I thought Colapinto crashed too much. Do you know what he should be doing? Scoring points, yeah? That's what we should be focused on.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's enough Alpine talk. I'm not talking about them anymore. That's it. Done. Right, Luke. 4 rookies this year. I'm not classing Colapinto. I'm not classing Lawson, okay? 4 rookies. Bortoletto, Kimi Antonelli, Hadjar, and Behrman. Who is I want you to rank those of rookie from 1 to 4. Who is your rookie of the season?
Well, what about Jack Doohan? Because he was a rookie as well.
I'm not classing
him. Number 1, Isaac Hadjar. Just looked like exceptional. I just think he looked. I think we knew pretty early on, especially considering. Do you guys remember how his season started in Australia? And I remember.
I was going to say he didn't have a race.
Yeah, well, exactly. We came on and had a good laugh about it because I think when you're a little bit older, which Matt certainly is, I am as well, you can look at those things and kind of laugh and be like, look, that is a really horrific way to start your F1 career. And I said at the time, I know it's going to be tough for him to take, but I hope his mates rib him for that a little bit, because he will laugh about it one day. He will. And I'm sure when he got the call up to Red Bull, he probably thought back to spinning out on the formation lap of Australia in his first race in F1, which brought him to tears, understandably. I bet he thought back to it and laughed and just thought, oh my God, what an idiot. I can't believe I did that. Because it is funny. And I hope he looks back and sees the funny side of it. Now he's going to be racing at Red Bull next to Max Verstappen next season, because he deserves it. After that happened, no one came out and thought, oh, Hadjar's a flop. What the hell? He's rubbish. He doesn't deserve. Everyone thought like that. That is real rough, man. I feel for you. That's embarrassing. And your friends are going to take the piss out of you, but you'll get over that. And he did. He came out. He's my rookie of the season. He's got his dream call up to Red Bull. And I do think he will succeed at Red Bull. I think second is a tough one, because for me, Behrman in that Haas getting 41 points. He had Haas's longest point scoring run in history, 8 races in a row, I believe it was. Outscored Esteban Ocon, who's an experienced F1 driver. But I think it's harsh to put Kimi Antonelli in P3. So that's why I would put Kimi Antonelli second. Which I feel like you disagree with, judging by the look on your face.
No, give you a one. I'll give you mine after.
Yeah, I think Kimi Antonelli is second. I think he did well in that Mercedes. With the thing that in terms of these rankings, I give Kimi a little bit of leeway for the amount of pressure that you have as a rookie coming into a team like Mercedes. There was nowhere near the same amount of pressure on Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoletto, Ollie Behrman Kimi Antonelli had the weight of the world on his shoulders, because if he had really flopped this season, that would have been unacceptable. Whereas if Ollie Behrman ended the season on 0 points, I don't think his seat would have been at risk for next season. But I think if Kimi Antonelli came in and really butchered the season, it could have been over as quick as it started for him. So that's why I give him P2. Ollie Behrman, P3, and Gabriel Bortoleto, 4th. Even though I think Bortoleto had a great season. And what I will say is I got this prediction wrong. I believed he would be Rookie of the Year at the start of the season.
You did.
But what I will say is all 4 of those drivers have been exceptional this year.
So mine's a bit different. Mine is Isaac Hadjar P1. I think he's been phenomenal all year. He's basically been my Rookie of the Season since like the 5th racing or something like that. I think it is. P2, I would go to Ollie Behrman. I think Ollie Behrman has taken that Haas to new levels. Picking up a P4 in Mexico. He's got the pace. He just looked great. It's a tough one between P3 and P4. The reason why I say I'll go with Kimi, because I agree with you with the pressure. He had more pressure than maybe the other rookies coming in. But he's in the better car, so I'd have expected him to do better anyway. But it is a tough one between P3 and 4 with Kimi and Bortoleto. But I think with Bortoleto, I would put Bortoleto P4. I think he's had a fantastic season. All of them have had brilliant seasons. But yeah, Isaac Hadjar is my Rookie of the Year. Behrman P2, Kimi P3, Bortoleto P4.
Yeah, it's funny because I think part of me would even say, look, Isaac Hadjar, and then the other 3 are probably on par. Like, I think they've all had really good seasons. I think Isaac Hadjar has only just pipped them. I don't think Isaac Hadjar was definitively like better than all 3 of them. I think we can look at the rookies this year and be like, you are all very, very impressive. And everyone
but
thought
also
it was
very likeable characters, all of them.
Yeah.
So that's great for us. Right, Luke, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half now, but just finishing off.
I know.
I want you to rank your top 3 moments of the season.
Top 3 moments of the season for... in what sort of circumstance? Like personal moments for me, or important
do you want me to tell you mine?
just...
Do you want me to tell you mine, and then you can go?
Okay, yeah.
So again, these are just my personal moments, not necessarily what other people think. I'm not influenced by other people. It's very much for me. Number 1, seeing Lewis in red, first race of the season. For me, like, that was a very special moment. That whole build up to the start of the season was great. Seeing him with all those iconic photos, and it was just brilliant. So seeing Lewis in red was a real moment for me, because that's something which we built up. We waited a whole year basically from the announcement to seeing it, and for me that was great. Granted, the season wasn't brilliant, but that was good. P2, Hulkenberg podium at Silverstone. I thought that was just... Getting his first podium was just great to see. It did stop Lewis Hamilton picking up his first podium in red. However, seeing Hulkenberg get that was pretty special. And I have to say, there's other ones I could say, Carlos Sainz and that, but the one I loved the most was the overtake of the year for me. Okay, Max Verstappen at Imola on Oscar Piastri. That was something special. That was such a great overtake, and I love to see that. I thought that was brilliant. So I could pick loads of other things. Lando winning the championship, Carlos Sainz on the podium, Lewis sprint win. There's so many great moments, but for me, those 3 were standouts.
Okay, this is funny because I think we have looked at it slightly different. So my favourite moment of the whole year was Lewis winning in China.
Yep.
Okay. The China sprint, that was my favourite moment of the whole year. As a Lewis Hamilton fan, it was pretty much all downhill from that point onwards. So that for me was the absolute peak. Another one of my favourite moments this season was the Monza pit stop by McLaren. And it was specifically Max Verstappen's radio message when McLaren made Oscar Piastri give back the position to Lando Norris because they gave him a slow stop. And then Max's radio message when he came over and was basically like, what, because he had a slow pit stop? And I just thought, yeah, that sums up people's feelings about that situation quite perfectly. And then I think I would have said Hulkenberg's podium, but I don't want to go for the same as you because you've already said Lewis. So I think what I'm going to say is another Max Verstappen special of him just driving into George Russell around Barcelona. I think, and I look at that as a moment of the season through, I cannot believe he did not get black flagged for that. I genuinely cannot believe it. For all of Max's unbelievable qualities on the racetrack, that guy has got a streak in him that is just diabolical. That was an outrageous moment. But look, he provided me two of my favourite moments for two different reasons. And yeah, I think we've had a season of many, many great moments. But I think the greatest moment of the whole season will be us standing, waving goodbye to these absolute shitbox cars.
Very, very true. Right, guys, that is the end of the podcast. That is our season review. Do comment, do get involved. You guys this week have been smashing it on socials. So thank you for all the support. We greatly appreciate it. Will we be back? We will be back. Will we? Oh my God, I can't speak. We will be back
it'll come out
with a Christmas special where we got our quiz. The end of season quiz, looking ahead back to 2025. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, that will be coming.
We should probably. I believe that we're not here next week for the episode. There's no episode on Monday next week. Am I right?
Well, potentially the quiz will come out before Christmas. We haven't decided yet whether we're going to put it out for Christmas. We haven't decided yet.
And that is exactly why you need to follow us on Instagram and TikTok, because we will update you on everything there, whether it comes out normal time or whether it comes out as like a Christmas special. I believe the quiz will come out when it comes out, but there is 2 weeks off the podcast. And
yes.
As we head
so
into
we'll
the
be
new
back.
year.
We'll be back on the 5th of January. So you will have a Christmas quiz that will come out. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. That'll be a bit of fun for, as Luke always says, he's very good at quizzes and turns out to be absolutely crap. But we will be back properly on the 5th of January. But if there is any news in that period, yes, of course, we'll jump on for a quick either audio podcast or we'll do some clips, so check us out on all social media. But from a YouTube point of view, we won't be back properly until the 5th of January. Because I think we have a little break now. Nice to have a little break.
Yeah, we've earned a break from this. You know, we've done an episode every. We've had an episode every single week for over a year now, haven't we?
I think we've missed one when you were away early in April, but then obviously I did one in Baku. You've done one when I was away. I don't know if you know, but I did a marathon this year when I was in November. So Luke stepped in for that one. But yeah, pretty much we are putting out daily clips on social media.
My AirPods just died. So
good. That is the end of the podcast. So thank you very much for all the support. We'll be back next week with a Christmas quiz. But yeah, thank you for all the support and we shall see you soon. Bye-bye.